What's going on, y'all? It's your boy J.H. Gibbons,
And as we'll see,
and welcome to yet another, the tenth episode of the Achromous podcast. Let's give us a round of applause.
woo,
Wow. So
yeah,
y'all have been here since day one, episode one. You're at episode 10 now. We've
yes, we
already
are.
gone through 10 beautiful episodes full of so much quality, full of a lot of information that you can apply to your life today. That's the difference, right? This is none of these are hypotheticals, man. We give you examples, we give you tasks, they're challenges that you can take and put it in your life today so you can start seeing the change that you're looking for.
Yes,
That's the most important part. And I really hope that a lot of you guys took massive action last week in whatever you decided to do, right? If this was the first time you spent some time actually fixing up your bed for the first time, bravo to you. If this is the first time you decided you wanted to cook for the entire week for the first time this year, again, good on you. Whatever you decided to do, even if you took the challenge, you met 7 people throughout the past 7 days, bravo to you. Again, the point of these challenges is to bring you out of that comfort zone that you may be stuck in right now and get you comfortable with being uncomfortable.
yes, absolutely. It's growth. That's what it's about. At the end of the day, you just want to keep that in mind and just make sure that that's something that's consistent in one way or the other. You have to apply yourself and find methods and tools that you create to break through, you know, plans that you have set in place. That's really what it comes down to.
Yep.
Really, just that simple.
Yep. Absolutely. And as long as you follow those plans, I mean, I guarantee that you will see change. I mean, when was the last time you heard somebody say that they can guarantee you that you will see change, right? Again, no hypotheticals, no wishy-washy comments, none of that. I mean, it's a straightforward. We guarantee you that you will see a change if you build these habits correctly, if you take massive action, something will change. I mean, maybe you might get less sleep, you know, you might find yourself losing weight, especially if you're changing your nutrition, and then it's just uphill from there for you. So again, thank you for those who have taken massive action this past week. Continue to do so. Continue to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I guarantee you that there will be better days for you ahead. um speaking of better days, my better half had a pretty good Thursday. At least I hope she did. I hope she did. Shout out to my fiance, Brianna, and like I said, it's been 6 years of this. What a journey! To anyone who's been in a long distance relationship, or anyone who's had experience either from the outside or from the inside, or however you've heard about it or know about it, it's very very tough. And I got to give her credit for sticking with a guy like me this long. I give myself credit for putting up with myself as well through all this. But no, a special birthday shout out once again to Brianna. I
Yes.
hope you
Happy
enjoyed the
birthday.
video.
Belated birthday to
Yes,
you.
yes. I hope you enjoyed the gifts. Hope you enjoyed the balloons. I hope you enjoyed all of that, and I really can't wait to see you. I really can't wait.
Heartfelt. Ah, this is that moment,
Mm,
guys, where we
I
just
know.
kind of give the love. Yes, yes,
I
Bree.
know.
All up to you. You deserve it. You're the best.
Absolutely. And yeah, like I said, I mean, if you truly find somebody in your life that matches your vibe, that makes you feel as special as you make them feel special, that stands up for you, that rocks with you through thick and thin, keep that person, man. Like, do whatever it takes to keep that person. Do whatever it takes to please them, to make them happy, to know that you are only as strong as your partner. And that goes for any type of relationship that you have, or any relationship that you're in. If it is worth it, work it. That's all I could say. If it is worth it, work it.
I,
Because
I like that.
yeah, I mean, there are some times, man, where you could be in something that you at least initially thought was going to be going the right way for you, and something happens along the way and it doesn't go that route. And there's a lot of pain from that. not just in relationships or breakups or whatever. People experience emotional pain, especially in our society now with everything like social media and everything is so public with relationships, and everything is just so public in general with people's lives. And I think that when we put these things out there, especially the pain that we're going through, we don't necessarily take the time to heal properly. We don't really understand what that journey looks like. We don't understand what it feels like. We may feel pain, and we may push it to a side that ends up bringing back negativity. And we may not do it intentionally. It's because we're in pain and we don't really want to face that side, that emotional side, and come face to face with ourselves in order to grow. But I can only I can tell you this, that if you continue to go down that route of negativity, it would only get worse. It would only get worse. So tonight, it's another wonderful podcast, but this one is going to be emotional. It's going to be very deep, and we're going to get into the weeds of figuring out what that journey towards healing looks like.
Yeah, um, you're totally right, Jay. Oh man, emotional pain. That's
Yeah,
something
I
we
mean,
can all relate to.
yeah. What does it feel like to you, man? Like to really to go beyond like feeling the butterflies in your stomach, or that emptiness that you get when something goes incredibly wrong, especially if you felt like you put your best foot forward and you've put so much energy into something and it just doesn't work out. Tell me how the helpless feeling feels for you.
Uh, for me, from my experiences, in recent years, when I've encountered those sort of instances, uh, it you're left with a feeling of helplessness.
Mm,
Um, you're left with feeling um, as if what piece of the puzzle is missing in
mm,
you, as to why are you prone to encounter these sort of experiences
mm,
that seems to be no matter what your efforts are, it's just not enough. Like you don't feel as if you're enough.
mm,
And it can get you to a place where you go into a void where you just are just, like you said, empty. And you're at a place where your thoughts betray you,
mm,
your actions become uncertain, and you don't trust yourself.
mm,
That is a really tough place to be. It's even harder to come from that.
mm,
When you get to a point where you feel nothing but emptiness and it just seems as if everything is just dark around you, ideally you're looking for some sort of light. You're
mm,
looking for some sort of way out. You're looking for some sort of way to come to the surface,
mm,
to just know you matter. When you get to those places, it becomes a sense of purgatory. You just feel like it's a constant struggle just to breathe.
mm,
And for me, when I've encountered these moments, uh, it's been very important for me to take a step back and just kind of assess my life leading up to that moment, leading up until what brought me there,
mm,
to understand that whatever I'm enduring in that moment is not the end all be all.
mm,
It's not a loss. It's a chance to learn. It's a chance to grow. But in order for that to happen, I have to be willing to take the necessary steps to apply myself so that I can break through that. A lot of the times, people, as you know, it's hard to do that. It's hard to face yourself because a lot of the times whatever happens to us and we go through these emotional pains, we're looking to point the finger elsewhere to everyone else. But ideally, it's because of what's going on inside us. And it comes back to not feeling like we're enough, which is
mm,
why a lot of the times you hear me say you matter and that you're worth it. And you're so
mm,
damn worth it because we are fixated in society where we're losing parts of our humanity. Um, for image, for what we think people want and think people need, think how we should be. There's perfect examples of that happening now, like we
Mm,
discussed before in prior episode, where there's like two sides of the spectrum of a person. That's the person you get on social media, and then there's the person that's behind closed doors.
mm,
And a lot of those times, in these moments when you encounter those emotional pain, what's going on to the person behind the door? What's going on with that person that's by themselves?
mm,
So it's imperative that you, in those moments, you look inside yourself and you try to find yourself. You try to figure out what can you do to address those things that has brought you to that place, because it's a habit. It's something that's going on that you haven't learned from, that brought you back to that realm.
mm,
And it's totally something that you can grow out of if you're willing to challenge yourself. If you're willing to face you in the mirror for you, not for anyone else, but for you, because you matter. And if you don't want to feel that way forever, no one else can take that emotion off of you. No one can go inward and do that work for you. Like, you gotta take the step. And for me personally, I realized that I needed to take the steps necessary, because I didn't like where I was in my life in those moments. I didn't like feeling like I wasn't enough, but I realized that was because of traumas that I suffered in my life
mm,
that made me feel that way, to make me feel that emotional pain that I carried around with me, as if like it was baggage I was supposed to have with me at all times.
mm.
But I didn't realize that until recent, that I could let that go, because it's a choice. I can be the master of my emotions.
Did you did you go through any sort of I'm sure you've went through negative thoughts, especially when when the emotional pain is so fresh, it's so raw. But were there any bad habits that you built subconsciously to try to protect what was left of your emotional state?
During those instances, I think depending on the type of, like, the severity of uh, emotional pain that you find yourself in, uh, I think naturally you look for an outlet of any
Mhm,
kind to help you deal with it. Um, personally, for me, I had instances where on the tail end of my divorce, where things went a certain way, where I just, and it wasn't necessarily because of, you know, my ex-spouse. It was more so line because of what I felt about me. Where that part of our life was already, it was what it was, and it was going to be what it was going to be. But to deal with the emotional pain of the trauma that I endured, for whatever those traumas were, uh, for me, a outlet became something that I didn't realize I was doing, which is where I got to drinking. For me, where I would pour myself a glass of wine, and I would just use that as an outlet of, like, oh well, I just need to take the edge off because of work.
mm,
Oh, anything that seemed to be what I consider to be a problem, or anything
mm,
that was what I used to mask that. When the reality of
mhm.
it is I was hurting,
Did you try
and
to numb yourself in that regard? Numb
I
your
did.
emotions?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, you try to find these substance and things to use to kind of try to negate those feelings, but they're there, and they will be there, and they're not going
They're
anywhere
not
if
going
you
away.
face them.
Yeah.
And for me personally, uh, you know, there was a moment where I knew I needed to face that emotional pain. I had to face myself.
Mm,
There was a particular moment where I had pulled me a glass of wine. I went to sit at the table, and my daughter came up to me, and she had looked at me, and she just was like, and this is something that I wouldn't like drink in front of her or anything like that, but she just knew, and she said like,
mm,
"That, are you drinking again?"
mm,
And
mm,
for me, that was a moment where
mm,
uh, I immediately gauged into my traumas, my hurt, And then I
Mm,
realized like that, oh wow, this isn't like a hurt from now, what
mm,
I'm going through right now. This is a hurt from someplace else.
mm,
And I gotta search to find out what's going on because I can't have my daughter look me in my eye and see me
mm,
not be my best self. I can't give that pain to her because I know what that looks like. So at that moment is where I realized work had to be done.
mm. And that word again, I mean, for somebody to be so young and to ask, I mean, again, right? Emphasis on again, meaning that even she picked up that there may have been a habit that you picked up to deal with this. So for her to ask, that you're drinking again, it's, I mean, that I can understand why something like that would completely um it'll hit you in a different way. It'll sort of wake you up, and it's a bit jarring. But I think some things like that, whether it's drinking or smoking or partying or doing whatever it takes to sort of escape um, your reality that you're now in. Um, it it's like any type of drug. You take it, it suppresses whatever you're trying to accomplish, and then it goes away, it fades. And then the next day you're there again with the same thing. So regardless how many times you take it, you're gonna take it and it's gonna go away, and then eventually you're gonna need more because your body starts getting used to it. You're gonna need much more of that same thing to hide the same pain that you're going through. And that answer, that solution, that hope is not at the bottom of that bottle. It's not at the end of that joint.
Mm.
It's not 3 a.m. at a club, completely wasted. It's not suicide. It's not any of that. So take us through how you went from that part, and was there some sort of epiphany? Was there did you at that stage begin to understand that you had to learn to deal with what you were going through and begin to love yourself through that pain that you were suffering?
Yeah, that was just one instance where I think when you're having a sense of awakening, you go through different phases, you go through different things, albeit physical, metamorphosis of your growth, spiritual, which is what really drove it in home for me, where you know everyone has their belief and what they believe in and whatnot, but for me, um, it was at a point where I knew it wasn't an addiction, but I knew I wasn't drinking for an occasion, like an occasional reason to drink. It was because of I just wanted to feel something of more than what I was feeling at that point in my life. So,
Mm,
um, what ended up happening for me was, oh man, so like I ended up getting to a point where it was I work, I do whatever I needed to do and function, and no one would know that I was going through what I was dealing with.
mhm,
Um, but I think it was matter. It was times where opening up to different people allowed me to start growing and building confidence about it. But before I could get to that point, I ended up having a moment where there was one night in particular where I um, just had it, and um, I felt broken, and I just
mm,
the emotional pain of whatever and everything I had endured in my life had just come to the surface, and
mm,
I was raised a certain way, to never let a person know what you think and feel.
mm,
As a black man, we understand what that is and how that is,
definitely.
and I had a moment where I was to myself. I was in the park, and I had had some few some things to drink and whatnot, but I was there. I was alone, and I just let all those emotions out. And I had never done that, never in my life like that. I've never done that,
Mhm,
and it just came out like a damn breaking. But
mm,
then in that time, for me personally, I had called out to God,
Mm,
And I asked, like, I always have always, had believed in what that means for me. But I had asked, hey, I can't do this no more. I don't
mm,
have any more fight in me. I don't think I'm worthy enough anymore because of what's happening to me in my life. And I feel like I'm failing. I'm failing, and I don't know how I can make it to tomorrow. And in that moment, I asked, just give me a sign, show me that that I'm worth it, that you're here. And 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 it happened.
mm,
It must have been probably like 5 something in the morning. And this is the craziest thing. It was storming, and the sky, like when I'd asked, the sky dispersed and it opened, and the sun
mm,
came out, and it was so bright, it was so warm, and I
mm,
felt the presence, and I just knew, and it was like I answered, and I felt like I heard this being speak or something speak within me to tell me, "Son, you're gonna be okay. I got
mm,
you. You're gonna be just fine." And in that moment, I sobbed and I just broke down, and
mm,
that was the beginning of the journey for me. Where when I came home, I went into the bathroom. I have this picture that I've shared on my page,
mm,
and I've shared with you as well. Where I went in, I took a shower. I didn't sleep at all that night. Took a shower. I remember wiping the mirror. I remember that was the first time I really looked at myself, and I just was like, "Oh my God, who is this? Who are you? I don't know who you are, but I gotta find you. I gotta
mm.
find me in there." And that's what happened. And I took remember taking a picture. I think I did a shave or something, and
I
took a
remember,
picture, and I said,
yeah,
"Yeah,
you're looking very disheveled, and I
yeah,
think you had quite the night. And I do think that it is imperative, it's very important, for, you as well as our audience to establish what that day is, what that time is, and what that looks like. Sometimes I believe that we may get that calling, we may get that answer that we've been asking, and we ignore it because that's not the answer that we're looking for. We're like, well, God's probably mistaken. He really meant that I should still be in this relationship. God's mistaken. I don't. That's not the job I want. That's not, that's not the person I want to be with. That's not the life I want to live. God doesn't know what He's talking about. Let me continue to do what I've been doing and
yeah,
still be in the same spot. Because again, being comfortable with being uncomfortable it's a very tough thing to do. But once you get to that stage, there's nothing that can stand against you, especially if God's on your side. What can stand against,
yeah,
exactly.
absolutely,
So it's like, for you guys out there, whenever that stage is, it doesn't have to be tonight, of course. It is whenever it is. It's whenever that time presents itself to you. I mean, I suggest you take a picture in the mirror as you are, as my brother Will C did there. It was as he was. He came as he was, and
yeah,
he took that photo, and the rest is history. I mean, we use that photo to look back on where life was when there was this bottomless pit that you didn't think you can actually claw your way up on the sides to get back up to see the sun again, but you did, right? You did it through love, you did it with the power of God, you did it through habits, you stayed productive, you stayed on track, and this is where you are. You know what I'm saying? Just about a year now, right? Close to it.
yeah.
Coming
This is
up to it.
definitely over a year
Yeah.
now. On this journey of that
Mm,
when I woke had awakening and I knew it was time.
mm,
Where my that thing, that voice in you, it couldn't be denied any longer, and it had to happen. And during that time, what I can say is, like, the effects of it, it doesn't go away, but you
mm,
learn how to deal with it.
mm,
You learn how to wear these scars like a badge of honor,
mhm,
because they're part of you. They make
mhm,
up who you are.
mhm,
They're your strength. They speak for you in a way where your actions and who you become would show
mhm,
it, And for me, that was big. And
mhm,
another part of it where I had begun to start learning how to love myself
mhm,
was through that moment. And then at that point, started to, for me personally, I started to listen to podcasts about
mhm,
things that were relatable to what I was going through. I started to read books. I started to got a journal, started to write out my thoughts, and then at the same time started to learn about affirmations for myself and what that meant. I started to
Mm,
educate myself to learn how to heal myself
mm,
because didn't I knew that there had to be stepping stones and a process that's for
mm.
me.
Right.
Understand that part that's for me.
Mhm,
So it's like you have to grow to learn that part because you're identifying what's going on with you for you, but
mm,
at the same time you're also addressing past traumas. So
mm,
it's a delicate line where your emotions is going to be everywhere, which my emotions was all over the spectrum because
mm,
I had been dealing with emotions I've never dealt with in my life. I didn't know
mm.
how to do it at this point, and
Right.
I just had to utilize my faith to kind of get me to help balance that in
Mhm,
and to learn how to deal with it in a healthy way as best I could, and just take
mhm,
on each thing and each feeling that I have, receive it, and let me go through the process of it.
mm,
Let me feel it and see it through, so I can understand it to better understand me.
mm,
To find those parts of Will that were that felt traumatic moments of things of hurt. Find that, you know, maybe 4-year-old Will, that 11-year-old Will, the 21-year-old Will, the 25th, 26-year-old Will, the one who was married, whoever those parts of me were that were
mhm,
integral, that I was left behind, that was detached from at that point in my life. I
mhm,
needed to find each one of the parts of me
mhm,
and pull it together and say, hey, the Will you see in front of me now, I'm so sorry we got to this point, but I'm ready to be who I need to become. But I need
mhm,
your help to
mm,
help me heal from these parts to become
mhm,
whole. And in order to do that, I have to be willing to open up chapters that I closed, that
mm.
was once closed because I couldn't face it. I got to
Right.
go through those books and I got to relive them. And it was a painful process, but it
Mhm,
was a beautiful one at the same time because
mhm,
I was finding me. So when I got to a point where I started to understand that,
mm,
the next step was beautiful, where I realized that there was strength in the support system with people around me who before,
mm,
because I didn't think I was enough, was cared about me the whole time and was there.
mm,
And then there was even the more beautiful part where there was just newer folks that were brought into my life that they brought into my life at such critical moments
mm,
where I have been willing to let my truth go.
mm,
And I remember particularly a time where I let that go, and then this person was there to not judge me, and they were a part of the process of me healing. And then I was blessed with another person where that was brought back into my life that I'd known for like 20 plus years to that was a huge part of this process for me. I had you right there every step along the way with me through that process from the moments you've seen where I was and just how bad it was. And,
yeah.
you know, in those moments, the people who love you most, they won't judge you. They will be there
Mhm,
for you and they will be there to help you grow. But
mhm,
the key to it is learning to do the work for you first, and then realigning your support system and who's for you and who's you know a good fit to kind of help see you through, because not everyone
mm,
is for you through those journeys, because some people may be toxic for that part of you.
mm. So,
So
yeah, I mean, it's it's crazy, especially when you talk about, affirmations. I know we discussed that at dinner, the other night, and I think something like that is imperative. I think is very important, on this journey towards healing that anyone out there might be going to. Look, if if it's something that you've never done before, it's always something that you can implement, right? If the strategies you've worked with before, you tried before, did not work, why not try something new? Why not take that chance to try something new and see if the results are different? Because the more and more you continue to work on yourself, the better you will get. It's only a matter of time, and I think that's the beauty of time itself. It's always moving forward. We can't stop it, but the one thing that we can do is learn to ride those waves and continue to move forward, continue to improve upon ourselves, continue to build healthy habits, continue to stay productive, and continue to heal properly. And
yeah,
healing properly it's very, very important that you do so before you go into some other type of situation with the same stuff that you left the other. It's very important that you learn to love yourself. You learn to understand who you are, what you deserve, and then and walk with that pride, man. Like walk with that swag.
Yeah.
Walk with that, you know? I mean, I've seen it from you, man. You've dressed differently. Your swag is just on a different level. You know what I'm saying? You're a Renaissance man. You got the hat, got the I mean, it's a complete transformation, and I think it's because you've learned to love yourself. You've learned to accept who you truly are, and you're now bringing that out into the world. It's no longer sheltered. It's no longer inside. You have become comfortable with being that uncomfortable person, and you have been able to develop and transform yourself into who you are today. And that takes a lot of guts, it takes a lot of time, it takes building those healthy habits, it takes the 21-3 method, it takes all of those things working in sync to be able to get to where you are now. So, for our audience out there who may have gone through a similar situation like you have, or may be going through it now, or may have had thoughts of doing something differently in their lives that may cause pain, may cause pain to themselves, to other people in that are involved in a relationship, even if it is friends from the outside, right? Because anybody who's involved on any type of level with you, whatever you do, things are not going to be the same again. You know, friendships may pass on. You know, people that you knew in the past may just stop rocking with you. But what's most important is that you love yourself. You put yourself first. You put God first, and there's nothing that can stand against. So I wanna put this out to the audience. We'll see. I mean, how do you see our audience moving toward healing? If there's a woman out there, there's a man out there who's gone through a traumatic experience, what do you think they should do to move towards healing and learning to love themselves along the way?
I think the very pivotal part of that process is to just stop.
Mm,
The world's gonna turn.
mm,
The hustle, the bustle of the
mm.
grind is gonna be what it is.
That's important. So right
Yeah.
there, I mean, and I don't mean to interrupt, but stopping is more important than going on, because the more and
Yes.
more you go, the more and more you suppress it, the more and more you try to bury it, and you're not giving yourself time to really understand what that is. You're
Yeah.
not giving yourself time. So yes, it is important to stop.
That is very, very crucial to understand. And here's the thing, like when you do that and you face yourself, understand that it's gonna be a journey that's gonna be
Mhm.
constant, because that's
Mhm.
something that I had to develop to understand that while I'm doing the work and I feel like I'm getting better, there were still emotional parts of me lingering in
Mhm.
certain areas I hadn't touched, that I hadn't thought about. I didn't
Mhm.
know that until certain moments arrived where I had to face it, and it was just like, oh, okay, there's still work to be done. Okay, well, let me assess that. Let me go through these motions and see how I can grow with it so
Mhm.
that I can continue to feel as good as I'm feeling. But in order to do that, you gotta be willing to face yourself and be true to you.
Mhm.
You owe you that. We
Mhm.
owe ourselves that. The same way we can give that time, energy, and love to someone else, we gotta be willing to give that to ourselves. Look, again, we try to stray away from certain things, but for me, for what I believe in, I believe in a form of giving agape love,
Mhm.
where that was something that was asked, for believers in Jesus to give, because you know it's a selfless act. So before you can love another, you have to be willing to love yourself. Is how I perceive it.
Mhm.
So you can always get the truer me, and to be sincere is because I am loving myself. How can I tell anyone else out there to love themselves or to put the work into themselves if I'm not being an example of that to them, for me
Mhm.
first? Because then how genuine is that, right? And it's too often that we see in society where everyone has a smile on their face, but behind doors they're just hurting, and it's tears of a clown. And at this point in life where we're headed in the society of what we see every day on social
Mhm.
media is, after you see this, I assure you within 10 minutes of scrolling, you're going to see something that's just out the norm and
Yep.
something that's just, not real. and it's gonna be a moment where it's just like, you think those people, what you see, really are feeling is good or being who they really are? No, they're not. And that's a huge problem. So I would say for anyone who's going through these things, do the work for you because you matter. Because
Mm,
you do, because your life is no different than anyone else's. And before you could be anything for anyone else, you got to be whole for you.
mm,
So for me personally, I realized from a relationship perspective and that aspect of my realm, since that's what kind of shifted that gear for me, before I can be ready for any woman that's walking God's green earth or that's blessed me in that way,
mhm,
I have got to be whole so that I can identify someone else who has done the work to love themselves as well. Because then at that point, our purpose may be more in line with each other. We may be more equally yoked with one another to be what we need to be for each other. And timing is everything because sometimes maybe you may find the right person that's for you, ideally, but you have a journey that you have to go through, and that person does too, to find yourself to align if it's meant to be right? Long term. Or, you have people that are in your life for seasons, people are in your life for reasons, people in your life for purpose, and people in life for you to teach. So it's a whole process that we go through. But ideally, if you do the work with starting to learn how to love yourself and address those traumas of what you feel, I assure you, you will be better. It will be, but here's the thing, just like anything else in your life, it takes consistency. It takes requirement, and nothing in your life should take priority and more consistency of effort than loving you first.
absolutely,
And that's
absolutely.
where I stand on that. And for
Mhm,
me, that's the biggest part of the advice I can give. And as a lot of you out there see,
mhm,
I give that on a regular basis because that was the truth I had to discover for me. And once I've begun to understand it, I'm learning now, and as we go, what that
mhm,
takes, what that consists of to put me first in a selfless love perspective. Not
mhm,
selfish, but selfless because I'm doing this for me, but at the same time, who reaps the rewards of it? My beautiful children,
mhm,
my most closest confidants, my friends,
mm,
um, my family, like anyone that I come in contact with
mhm,
is gonna get that sincerity because I'm my best me for
mhm,
you. So how can that be wrong? How can that
mhm,
feel wrong? And it could do nothing but gravitate good vibes because that's all I
mhm,
want to give out. That's all I choose to give out now.
yeah,
So it's like it's a process, it's a journey. It won't be easy because nothing in life is.
yeah,
But you matter. You
mm,
matter most because you are so damn worth it. If no one told you that enough in your life, look in the mirror and say it to yourself. Make that an affirmation for you. Because I tell myself that every day.
mm,
Because there was a point in time for damn near 33 years of my life where I didn't believe that.
mm,
I couldn't even look myself in the mirror.
yeah,
And
wow,
now I know the difference. I know my worth.
mm,
So that's what I have to give to you. That's the advice we'll see gives to you sincerely and can
mhm,
assure you, as long as you're willing to apply yourself, you will get better and understand there's going to be distractions along the way because there are. I still deal with them. But because I'm learning how to love myself, I'm understanding where I have to realign myself and stay the course because this is a process that I have to do for the rest of my life
mm,
because I'm worth it.
mm.
So you got this. You can do this too.
Imagine if we had a society of people who knew for sure that they were all worth it. Imagine if we had a society that was just full of love,
Yeah.
full of people who understand how to give out that love. They understand what positive vibes do for themselves, for their families, for their loved ones, friends, strangers even. I mean, imagine you just walking down the street and you just give a random stranger a hug who's probably down on their luck, having a terrible day, might have just gotten yelled at the boss, might have lost their job, might be looking at homelessness or whatever the case may be. Just telling that person that they matter, just giving them a hug, giving them a handshake, telling them a joke, sharing your experiences with that person, stranger, friend, family, loved one, whatever, it helps them. It gets them through the day, it gets them through that stage, and you never know what somebody else is going through. Even with IG or Facebook or anything like that, like they're all pictures, right? You take your phone out, you take a picture, Any picture that I have on my phone, I'm either smiling or there's some sort of there's something that I'm trying to give off from myself to you so that you can understand the emotional state that I'm in. And it's very rare, especially if you're putting it on something like Instagram, that you're going to see somebody that's in a sad mode. You're not going to see people who are down under luck at a time. You're not going to see people who are sad, who have been abused, who have been through so much crap. You're only going to see the good sides because that's what they're trying to promote. That's what those sort of social media apps do. Um, so it's imperative that you don't look at somebody's life through a post, through an image, through a 30-second video that you see. It's important that you don't compare yourself to them. Whatever they're doing, they're doing. Whatever, however they got there, they got there. Pay attention to yourself. Take the time to understand yourself. Take the time to love yourself more. Take the time to spend time purposely with your own self, with your own thoughts. Get yourself together because the journey towards healing is never ending. It's always going to be going. You're always going to be growing. You're always going to be getting better for whatever situation is going to be put in front of you. That's just part of life. It's just a ton of situations, a ton of events. People are placed in your life at specific stages where they play that particular role that they play, and some move on, some stay there for life. But again, this is what life is. I firmly believe that life is about a journey. It's about trying to understand yourself, trying to understand the world that you live in, and trying to bring your best talents, your best steps towards making other people whole, bringing society together, um, being that example of someone who has made it through the roughest parts of life, and being that shining light for somebody else who's going through that same thing, who can use you as an example to say, wow, he made it through that. I got this. I got this. I can love myself. I know I can. I'm gonna focus on myself. I'm gonna take the time out. I'm gonna take all the time it needs. Nobody's rushing me. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna dig in, and I'm gonna learn exactly who I am. So, knowing that it's Sunday now, knowing that you have a full week ahead of you, I want you to really sit down and just think about a time in your mind where you were in pain. And I mean severe pain, not necessarily physical. Let's think of a time where you were in just emotional pain. Your stomach was in knots, your heart was just beating out of your chest, you were sweating, you felt like you were gonna have a mental breakdown. Think about that time, and then think about if you went a route that you probably should not have. Did you do something when you faced that stage in your life that you regret doing? Did you try to drown out what you were doing? Did you turn to drugs? Did you turn to drinking? Did you turn to some type of escape that negatively affected not just you but everybody around you? On the other side of that, have you learned how to now love yourself and bring the best part about you out to everybody else in the world? This is a very important one. So I want you guys to really take the time to think about this. Send us DMs on it. Send us your story, and we guarantee you that we will make a post about it because we're a community. We're all growing. We're all building healthy habits. We're all staying productive, and we can guarantee you that your story will be featured next week. Again, think about a point where you were in just excruciating pain, where you took a negative route knowingly, but then you learn to love yourself after, and you've become a better person because of it.
Yeah. It's moments like this where, this is it. This is part of the process. Part of the process in being fearless, to put yourself out there center stage and just be great because you are, because you
Mhm.
exist, because
Yep.
you are alive.
Mhm.
There's no better time for you to do what you need to do than right now because it's all we have. This is all we have,
Absolutely.
guys. If you're blessed to see this and be a part of this moment, this is the time that you're investing. So let's invest into you.
Mhm. Absolutely. Invest in yourself. Time only moves forward. We don't know how to stop it. We don't know how to pause it. We don't know how to rewind it yet. Maybe some genius one day will learn how to do that, and then these sort of episodes wouldn't matter to you. Right now, time moves forward. Move with it. Move along with it. And I think the one thing is that results results won't lie to you, right? Whatever you're doing in life is going to show, whether it's something physical or mental or emotional. If you are trying to tell yourself or tell others that you're hitting the gym, but you're not gaining any strength, you're not getting any faster, you're not in better shape, you're lying to yourself, right? But the results are showing that, right? You don't even have to say anything. But what if I were to tell you, and I know this is kind of crazy. What if I were to tell you that there is a perspective of truth? What if I were to tell you that I could tell you the same exact story that I told everyone? You can tell the same story that you've told everyone from the same experience that you had. Let's say for example, we both went to the gym, right?
Mhm.
We both saw we both saw somebody in the gym that had on a particular color on their shirt, right? I swear up and down, bro, that I saw a person wearing a gray shirt. You swear up and down that you saw the same person wearing a blue shirt. But what if I were to tell you that we are both right? What if I were to tell you that we're both being truthful? Right? I can't go out there and say, bro, Will is lying, man. He's lying. That shirt is not blue, bro. That shirt was gray. He's lying to you. And I could say the same, bro, that shirt is not gray, it's blue, right?
Yeah.
But what if based on your perspective, right? It could be the lighting, it could be how your eyes work, it could be whatever. That shirt was the exact color that you said it was, but it was also the same color I said it was, right?
Mm,
Man, I think next week's episode is going to be interesting. I
yeah.
think I think we may have disagreements on this one, live disagreements, and I think it's going to be fun for you guys to listen to. But the perspective of truth, right? And I'm not sitting up here saying that there aren't absolutes, right? If it's raining and it's not raining, and you're telling me it's raining outside and it's clearly not, then that's an absolute. It's absolutely not raining, or you might
Or
be
you're in
crazy.
Florida. 'Cause that's very possible.
Yeah, yeah. Or you know what I'm saying? You could be standing under a rain cloud that's literally just circling you and not anybody else. But I know that there is a perspective of truth, because if I hear a story from someone, right, that's in a situation, and I ask somebody else that was in the same situation and their story is literally the opposite of what that other person's story is, how could I so confidently say that one of those people are lying? What if they're both telling the truth from their own perspective? That is going to be such an interesting episode to get into.
Yeah,
And
it
I
definitely
can't
will.
wait for it.
Yeah, perspectives is interesting as it is.
Mhm.
There are definitely variations of truths.
That's
So,
true.
I like to look at it as like pieces to a puzzle. Everyone, everyone could tell you the story, uh, and it's like you said, maybe an absolute to it, but at the same
Mhm.
time, there's my version of it. There's your version of it.
That's very true.
So,
And both versions could be true.
it could be true.
It's
Could
just
be
your
true.
perspective. It's your version, right?
Yeah.
But then you also got to think about emotional states. You also got to
Mm,
think about how was I at that particular time when this situation was happening? Am I remembering this just strictly based off of what I think happened, or did this actually it's gonna be
mm,
fun. That's all I could say. It's
yeah.
gonna be a very interesting episode. We're gonna dig deep into our own minds and start asking these really open-ended questions. And
Yeah.
again, we encourage you to join. We encourage you to be part of this. We encourage you to let us know, man. Hit us up on Achromous. It is Achromous. It's literally the only Achromous out there. Type it in on Google, we're the first one there. Type it in on YouTube, we're the first one there. Type it in on IG when you're searching, first one there. Facebook, first one there. We're the first one everywhere.
Yep.
We're also A. We're the first letter of the alphabet. You can't miss us, and you should not miss us. This is some great quality content that we're putting out there for free to you guys in order for you guys to take this in and not just take it in, to literally implement it into your life today. Because that is the only reason why we're doing this, is because we want you to act on what we're saying, not just
Yep,
listen, not just store it in your mind. No, act on it, because I can guarantee you that your life will change the minute you put things in action.
absolutely, absolutely. Again, the only time you have is now. So what better
Yes.
time than to do it?
What better time than the present? My
Let's
gosh.
let's make it happen.
Yes, man. Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we've come to the end. Man, it's always so hard to say goodbye.
When you're
Always
having
so
fun
hard.
with your friends.
Yes,
That's true.
absolutely. Absolutely. But we're going to be back again. We're
Yeah,
always going to be here.
real soon.
Absolutely. So
Yeah,
until next Sunday, I am J.H. Gibbons.
and we'll see.
Peace.
Peace.